In this video, we're going to look at some of the new updates that came out as part of Power BI's May 2025 update, including things like the new standalone Copilot feature, 2 brand new functions with the visual calculations feature, as well as some updates to some of the existing visuals like the list slicers or the Azure Map visual. All of that and more. So without further ado, let's jump in. So before we go with the actual update itself, they have linked the Fabric roadmap, which is a page that you can visit to see what features are lined up next and when they should be released, which is good if you're planning to implement any features and you want to know when they will be released by or when they will be in public released, not just in Power BI, but in Fabric in general. Let's start with the meatiest part of this update, which is the standalone Copilot feature. So with this new feature, you can ask it anything about your data. Whereas previously you're limited to the reports that you have currently open, now you can ask any questions about any data that you have access to. It has some neat capabilities available to it, such as a search feature, which will let you find reports relevant to your question, ask questions about your data, or even generate visuals or DAX calculations, which is how most developers are familiar with using Copilot in Power BI. You can even link the reports that you want to ask a question about, which will likely give you a more accurate answer to what you need. There are other functionalities that came out with the Copilot feature, which you can read about with the documentation that I will link in the description box below. Since the users will be able to query the data itself, it's important that the data is prepped for AI to get the best results. There's a new Prep Data with AI button in the Power BI desktop that can help you prepare your data to work better with Copilot. There's a data schema section which allows you to pick and choose which tables and columns you want the AI to consider when generating results. This allows Copilot to generate answers only from those important fields that matter, so excluding things like sorting columns, internal IDs, or other irrelevant columns that could be excluded so that Copilot doesn't spend time trying to consider these columns. Verified answers are predefined answers based on frequently asked questions. It lets you curate the type of results that users might get when they ask a specific question. It's kind of similar to how the QA, the predecessor of Copilot's Q&A, actually works. You can link trigger phrases to these verified answers, or allow your users to customize things like filters for a more filtered result. You can add a visual as a verified answer by clicking the 3 dots, then set them up as a verified answer, then link trigger phrases to it. AI instructions are basically free text prompts that lets you provide instructions to help Copilot generate even more accurate responses. It could be used for instructions like, adding business context like when the busy season is, or apply specific filters when asking questions. Once you've prepped your data for AI from the Power BI service, you can go to the semantic model and tick prepped for AI, which basically marks the semantic model as prepped for AI. This ensures that Copilot will optimize this data when used with the Copilot standalone experience. For the first time ever, you can now do writebacks natively in Fabric using Translytical Flows. When I say writeback, I mean the ability to update information from Power BI to your source location. If you wanted to do this before, you'd have to use third-party tools or update those source files directly. But now with Fabric, you'll be able to do this within Power BI. So simple actions like adding, updating, or deleting records can be done without coming out of Power BI. I'm keen to actually test this out and see how this fits into my current workflow, because when I'm working with Power BI, it's usually at the bottom of the data chain, and I don't usually encourage write-back options from Power BI. However, if this implementation is simple enough to implement, it could be a good alternative option. Sorting orders for field parameters are now preserved. Fields parameter is a feature that lets you swap measures or fields with a slicer, and is useful if you want to give your users the ability to customize what they see in their charts. The issue I had with it previously is that the field sorting is not preserved when you choose a different field. Going back to a field that you've sorted would reset the sort order. This update fixes that, so sorting now persists even if you change to a different field. If you use visual calculations a lot, you'll see that there are two new functions available to you, Lookup and Lookup with totals. They work very similarly to the Excel counterparts, which basically lets you find values on your data table based on the parameters that you give it. Here's an example. The Lookup basically looks for values where the class is H. Note that the calculation infers any omitted filters from the context. In this case, you'll notice that for each category, there's only one H class. So it simply gets the value and averages if there are multiple of those H values. Lookup totals treats any omitted filters as part of the total. In this case, it takes all the H sales across all categories and does an average on all of them. The list slicer has been updated this month, starting with having the ability to restrict to leaf nodes. This means that if you have hierarchies in your list slicer, you can make it so that the selections can only happen at the lowest level. Any nodes higher can only be collapsed or expanded. Next are labels, which you can now add as a subtitle with your list. I think this is a great addition as it gives extra information about the slicer visuals, and I can see myself using this a lot. They've also included the ability to add your own custom image as part of the slicer, along with some basic formatting options for those images. They've also added more control over how you can customize the states. So previously you only had access to updating basic states like hover, on press, selected, and disabled. Now you can customize this individually across other hierarchies as well. And going beyond further than that, they've also added some advanced toggles that you can customize: selection, expansion, and interaction states, giving you more control over what happens in each of these states. To be honest, it's quite a lot of customization options here. So for those of you that are looking to fine-tune how these visuals look, though it is getting more complex as more options come out. I'll look at covering this in the future video because I'm really curious on the different ways that the community can now leverage this extra customizability. You can now paste your selections into your list and button slicers. So from what I understand, this is how it works. If you have a selection in the right format in your clipboard, you can simply go to the slicer itself, click the three dots icon, and look for the paste option. Or with the visual selected, select Ctrl V. This basically applies the filters that you have on your clipboard to that actual visual. Just note that the data needs to be in a specific format and has a bunch of limitations, as all preview features do. So if you have a bulk task of updating multiple visuals using the same filters, this could be a potential use case for this. Otherwise, I don't actually quite understand what this feature solves and who it's for. They've added the ability to customize line segment colors in line charts, which works similarly to how bar chart colors work. This is great if you want to highlight areas that exceed or within the certain boundaries, for example. What I do not see though is the conditional formatting option, which would give the dynamic capability with these colors. There are three new map styles that you can use with the Azure Maps visual. Along with that, they've also added some capabilities to control what visuals show on your maps, such as what borders to show, buildings, or even road details, which lets you add more details to these maps or simplify it further for a more decluttered view. You can now toggle an option to discourage implicit measures when creating visuals on top of your models. So I've already covered implicit and explicit measures and how they differ in a separate video. But implicit calculations are basically when you use standard fields to do summarizations like sum, average, minimum, and max without wrapping it in a measure. With this option enabled, if you try to do this, it will give you a warning and it actually won't let you do it, which means that if you want to do any aggregations, you need to put this calculation in a measure. I think it's a good functionality to have. I'd even argue to have it on by default as it promotes best practice to always use explicit measures. I can see use cases for this when you have semantic models that are available for the whole company. So for example, if you want to have a count measure that has specific filters in it, this feature ensures that everyone that wants to do a count can only use that measure for counting, so that if the counting needs to be changed, it can only be changed in one place, which will affect everyone that does the count, keeping the count consistent across the whole company. There are some new TMDL enhancements this month, such as contextual tooltips, the formatter option in the ribbon menu. There's also quick fix tooltips that provide code suggestions on the fly. compatibility level prompts, and you can also now rename from the TMDL view, which I guess previously you couldn't do. And that's really it for this video. So as usual, I didn't cover everything that was part of this month's update, only the ones that were pretty interesting to me. So if you want to read more about everything that came out as part of this month's update, I'll leave a link to the full blog post in the description box below. Thanks for watching as usual. Give this video a like if you found it useful. Give it a dislike if you didn't, so to do better for next time. Ask your questions in the comment section box below so I can help you and you can help others. If you like this video, we have a Patreon page where you can support the channel and get exclusive perks like early access, demo files, and credits at the end of these videos. Thanks again for watching and see you in the next one. Bye bye.